Hey everyone, it's me, your bud Slayridge. This last Tuesday when Crown of Sorrows released, math class and I managed to nab an incredible world first and get the new raid exotic, Tarrabah, for our entire team. Except we didn't get world first, the game just baited us into thinking so. Got us good. Guess you could say we got the Crown of Sorrows, huh? Hilarious, truly. Anyway, we did get Tarrabah. It's an energy submachine gun that builds up energy by inflicting damage to activate a damage buff for the gun itself. This may sound a little bit like another gun to you, but don't get your hopes up just yet, let's get familiar with the gun for now. First things first, I should read out these perks. Ravenous Beef. This weapon stores power when dealing or receiving damage. Once full, hold reload to unleash the beef. Then we have extended barrel and armor-piercing rounds, followed by another perk here called Bottomless Appetite, which reads, dealing continuous damage extends the duration of Ravenous Beef. Sounds pretty cool. Let's get a closer look. Isn't it cute? This modest little gun that looks so ordinary in its weapon preview actually looks pretty badass when it's fully charged. So how exactly does it perform with its signature perk active? Well, it's better than a machine gun. In this Mars Law sector, Tarrabah is hitting for 898 per bullet versus Hammerhead's 915, meaning Tarrabah does 2% less damage per bullet, but fires twice as fast. In other words, Tarrabah is just under doubling the DPS of any other given machine gun. In fact, Thunderlord still does the 450 RPM archetype's 915 damage, and at its maximum ramped up rate of fire, it shoots at 750 RPM, which is still slower than Tarrabah's 900, so in terms of single target DPS, Tarrabah is actually ahead of even Thunderlord by roughly 17.6% DPS overall. It should come as no surprise that this endless deluge of bullets can shred bosses, even insanely tough ones like Randall the Vandal. Surely this boss-melting beast of a gun is a must-have, right? Well, kind of. The big drawback of Tarrabah is that it does need to be charged. In PvE, this could use more testing than I've given it, but based on my limited experimentation, it seems to charge the exact same on body shots and headshots, and the charge granted seems to tie into the amount of damage resistance that enemies have. I was able to get Ravenous Beast charged in one magazine if I killed multiple enemies aiming slowly and deliberately, but it never seems to charge in a single magazine against stronger enemies. So how bad does that hurt the gun? Well, real bad. To make Tarrabah look good for a second there, I pretty much had to compare its highlight reel against a machine gun's rainy day. Just to cut to the chase and spoil the conclusion, this gun is pretty Tarrabahl. For real though. Let's broaden our machine gun comparison a little bit. Thunderlord can chain kill enemies with arc explosions, Hammerhead can get surrounded or even rampage for extra DPS, machine guns don't need a rally barricade or lunafaction rift to have a respectable magazine size for the rate of fire. Machine guns are also pretty awful in terms of boss DPS, so that's really not the situation you want to bring them in for comparison in the first place. That's not what you use them for. Granted, Tarrabah does use energy ammo instead of heavy ammo, but we'll get to why that advantage isn't very important in just a second. The bottom line of all this nuance is that, yes, Tarrabah does out DPS a machine gun against boss combatants, but that does not make it a better gun in any meaningful way. Tarrabah is riddled with drawbacks, so I guess it's just bubble bursting time. Let's just get right into it. Firstly, the gun needs to charge. That means a lot of the time you're using the gun without its perk active. This is a huge drawback because, to be blunt, the gun sucks without Ravenous Beast. It feels like Huckleberry in its sound, look, rate of fire, and magazine, so pretty much just imagine Huckleberry, but with a new intrinsic perk that modifies ammo granted per kill to 0, and rampage stacks per kill to also 0. And that's what Tarrabah feels like most of the time. This is most certainly the gun's fundamental problem. Secondly, the activation for the perk requires you to hold reload. While I absolutely love that Bungie is experimenting with select fire in Destiny 2, and I do want to see more of it, this is just a really inefficient way of activating a different firing mode. I found reloading to activate to be a very jarring problem. Often when I wanted to be firing the gun with Ravenous Beast active, I was instead hiding and reloading and missing my opportunities. It's a major problem that activating select fire modes is only as fast as the gun's reload speed. That hits especially hard on Tarrabah, when Ravenous Beast gives you a much faster reload speed, because it leaves me wondering, why did it not get that reload speed to activate the perk? At any rate, I think it would make a lot more sense to activate select fire modes by double tapping reload instead, no extra fluff. Thirdly, the timer on the perk is somewhat short. While Bottomless Appetite does quell this issue to an extent, 8 seconds just doesn't feel like enough time for a perk that requires activation. I found myself getting into the rhythm of Ravenous Beast power fantasy only to have it cut short by the timer pretty often. I would like the way the gun felt way more if the timer was longer to begin with or more generous with timer refreshes so I could keep it running, but it's just back to the slog of having a non-exotic feeling weapon too quickly just about every time. Fourthly, it has no range. I understand it's an SMG, but this thing just cannot kill anything other than close range. And that's all fine and well until you tie it in with a long activation and a short timer. Those factors combine to make Tarrabah so situational that it winds up feeling weak almost all the time. Finally, and this one is major, you can't maintain charge with the weapon stowed. If you pull out a different weapon, the instant the other weapon is visible on your screen, your charge is completely lost. You also lose it if you activate your super, or even if you pull out your ghost. This is such an overwhelming drawback that I'm tempted to label it as a bug or something. I can't imagine that it won't be fixed or changed later, because it absolutely obliterates any reason you might have to equip Tarrabah. Basically, if you want the gun to feel exotic, it starts feeling like the only weapon you're allowed to use. This is by far its biggest setback, because circling back to our foundational issue with the gun, it sucks without the perk active. But using it that way is the only way to get the perk rolling, and once you start using it, you can't stop. To really wrap your head around this, you'd have to fool around with the gun some, but just imagine this very common scenario. You spent the time to charge up Ravenous Beast, but there aren't any enemies nearby that are worthy of unleashing the beast. So what do? You can't super, you can't swap weapons, you can't activate the perk without having to charge it again. Guess you're stuck using a bad SMG. That's what Tarrabah is. It's time to compare this gun to its closest counterpart, Recluse. For those not in the know, Recluse has its own signature perk called Kill Everyone and Everything Effortlessly that gives it a huge damage buff after getting a kill with the weapon. It doesn't even need to be Recluse. You can get a kill with your special to activate the perk, and then you have 2.5 seconds to pull out Recluse and get the full buff duration, which has no activation animation, and gets a full refresh on every kill with Recluse afterwards. On top of that, since it's a legendary weapon, you can put a mod on it. Also, it's lightweight frame, so you move faster with it equipped. Also, it has ricochet rounds for the intrinsic rangefinder buff that gives it an edge at range, and it's not an exotic, so you can wear a different exotic weapon with Recluse equipped. Also, it only requires 2100 glory, so it's easier to get. Alright, well, case closed. Recluse is better. Thanks for watching, everyone. But wait, you say. You haven't tried it in the Crucible yet. Maybe it's amazing in the Crucible? Ding, ding, ding. You got it. Just as the Recluse is a beast in PvE, Tarrabah is a beast in PvP. Let's quickly look at some of the mechanics of it. So firstly, in PvP, Tarrabah takes 20 landed bullets to charge every time, no matter what. Guy as far away as can be, still 20. Armor of light damage resistance, still 20. Sword damage resistance, still 20. Guy leaving the game because his dog crapped the carpet, still 20. If you land 20 shots, you can unleash the beast. Not only that, but you can charge the gun by taking damage. Not that you ever will with Tarrabah equipped, but I'm legally required to disclose that it's technically a possibility. This takes more than 20 bullets though, which basically means that it'll never happen in practice. Also, you can't hit yourself to charge it, you big dummy. Why would you even try that? Also, you get about an extra second of Unleash the Beast for every kill you get with it, and under the right circumstances, you can get a ridiculously long buff going. You'll become such an unstoppable force of destruction that Drifter will have to make Gambit double prime. Just kidding, more highlight reels. The gun actually manages to suck even more in PvP because you pretty much never manage to get the perk activated on a single kill, and getting 2 kills back to back at close range without changing weapons is just unreasonably tricky when you're facing off against snipers going for Revoker or shotgunners with no problem killing your dumb budget Huckleberry wielding ass. Recluse is vastly superior in PvP. I will say the gun isn't awful though. I went into 0 hour kind of expecting Tarrabah to be Tarrabah to use by comparison, but it actually did honestly better than Recluse here. So in its niche, it definitely does manage to shine. Even in PvP, I could definitely see someone going on a crazy kill spree or even getting a 7th column with Tarrabah if the stars aligned. You can't do that with every gun. I actually managed to kill a guy in a super one time too, but he was looking away from me, so that only sorta counts. The bottom line is that Tarrabah's niche is so small that it's to the point of near non-existence. It kicks a lot of ass in the right settings, but those settings are just too few and far between. Far too often, the gun feels bad to use. I hope to see charge stay on the gun when it's stowed, and I would also like to see the gun get a buff from having Ravenous Beast fully charged even when it's not in use, and if not that, at least some buffs to the base gun. It feels really lacking right now, and I can't see myself ever using it knowing that I can't use anything else at the same time. That desperately needs to be changed. I'm going to close out this video with one final thought though. While the gun is genuinely a bad weapon that forces a weaker playstyle than simply having a diverse loadout, it is actually pretty fun to use. Conceptually it's cool, and the execution is good. With a little TLC, I could see this being something players would really want to chase, and it kind of pains me that it wasn't released that way. We need to talk about raid exotics and their strength someday, but today is not that day. If I can get solo 0 hour with Tarrabah only, you'll see it on the channel soon enough. If it never gets uploaded, we can just add that to the piling evidence that the gun really isn't all that great. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want more subpar content, check out my Twitter or Twitch, links are in the description. And this video was edited by my bud Anasia, so if you like the editing, feel free to follow his Twitter in the description too. Have a great day all.